All right, so today we're going to take a look at Unit 13, Section 2. Unit 13, Part 1 was all about sequence, and this time we're going to start focusing on a series. Specifically, we're going to be looking at how do we find the sum of a series, how do we write a series in summation notation, and how do we write out the terms in a series. This one's probably going to be the easiest one because it's really based on the other pieces, just involves a couple more variables than what the other ones do. All right, so first of all, if we're going to be talking about series is really this idea of a summation. So you need to know what a summation is. And basically, a summation, you're going to do basically the same things as you did with a sequence, but with one extra step. The extra step is, in order to be a summation, okay, you're still going to find the values of each term. But to turn it into a summation, look at the first three letters, right? The first three letters spell out the word sum, which tells us that after we find each of the terms, then we're going to add them together. So then sum the terms. All right, summation means to sum, and sum means to add. So we're going to add all the terms together because summation means sum, which means to add. So, for example, if we're given these as our first five terms, 18, 20, 22, 24, and 26, to do the summation, we would simply do 18 plus 20 plus 22 plus 24 plus 26, which would give us 110. So we're going to do basically what we did yesterday, but one extra step, which means we're going to add them together. The other big deal is summation notation. So we're doing the same thing, but the notation is going to be slightly different. Okay, so this is what we call summation notation. So let's just break it down. This part here is a Greek letter, and it stands for sigma. So Greek for sigma. But in math, we won't say sigma. Instead, what we'll say is this is the mathematical way to indicate summation. Mathematical way to indicate summation. In other words, that we're going to be adding things together. Okay. Then we have to look at all these other pieces. So when I read something like this, the idea is we would say summation of, in this case the expression, which is negative 6i, from 1, because the bottom number is 1, which is our starting point, to 8. Okay, so we're talking about this summation notation. As soon as we see this, this means summation of negative 6i from when I is 1 to when I is 8. To the right of the sigma, right, to the right of the sigma is that 6i, the negative 6i, I'm sorry, and this is the expression used to find the values of the terms. Sorry, those are two separate words. Values of the terms. That's when we look to the right, which is this piece here. Then, when we look under the sigma, so in this case, the 1 equals I, under the sigma tells what to substitute to get the first term. Then, when you look at the number above the sigma, which in this case is 8, right? So we'd start substituting in 1. The number above the sigma tells you which one should be your last term, the last value you substitute into the expression. the last value you substitute into the expression. All right, so when I'm looking at this term here, for this summation above, which was the summation of negative 6i, sorry, my marker's not working, of negative 6i from I equals 1 to 8, okay? Basically, we're saying plug in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 into negative 6i. So we'd be doing negative 6 times 1, which is negative 6. Negative 6 times 2, which is negative 12. Negative 6 times 3 is negative 18. Negative 6 times 4 is negative 24. Negative 6 times 5 is negative 30. Negative 6 times 6 is negative 36. Negative 6 times 7 is negative 42. And negative 6 times 8 is negative 48. Because all we did was substitute each number in until we got to 8, because 8 was our stopping point and 1 was our starting point. So we started substituting in 1 and we stopped when we got to 8. Now that we have all these values, because it's a summation, we're going to need to add those values together. So negative 6 plus negative 12 plus negative 18 plus negative 24 plus negative 30 plus negative 36 plus negative 42 plus negative 48, which would give us negative 216. Sorry, that was a little off the screen. So in the end, when we write out this piece here, without this, from here to here, this is what we call a series. Okay, so that's definitely a term you need to know. The series is the expression that adds all the terms together. So if I ask you for the series, you would just give me this piece. But if all it says is something like this, this is asking you, what's the summation of negative 6i from 1 to 8? And we figured that was negative 216. Okay, so make sure you read the expressions, or the instructions, I'm sorry. If it asks for a series, all you do is write this out. If it asks you, if all it gives you is this piece here, then you need to find the final answer, which is negative 216. All right. So those are basically the steps we take whenever we're trying to find the sum of a series. So step 1 is to substitute allowable values into the expression. So in this case, we're starting out at 0, so I'd plug in 0 first. So 5 times 0 plus 4. 5 times 0, 0 plus 4 is 4. Then I would do every single integer until I got to 5. So 5 times 1 is 5, plus 4 is 9. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 4 is 14. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 4 is 19. 5 times 4 is 20, plus 4 is 24. And 5 times 5, because 5 is where we stop, right? So we start with 0 and we stop with 5. So 5 times 5 is 25, plus 4 is 29. And then we need to simply add so then once we've got that, step 2 is to write out the series, which remember is the sum of the terms. So it would be 4 plus 9 plus 14 plus 19 plus 24 plus 29. And then our last step is to actually add terms and write answer in summation notation. Right answer in summation notation. So I would say the summation from n equals 0 to 5 of 5n plus 4 is When I typed that in my calculator, I ended up getting 99. Okay. So I think this one's pretty self-explanatory. So I'm going to have you try most of these on your own. We're just going to do one more together, and we're going to do number 3 together, but I'm going to have you, actually we'll do 4 together. I want you to try 2, and I want you to try 3 on your own. Okay, but we'll do number 4 together because it looks a little bit more complicated, right? So this is my starting point. So we would do putting 1 in place of k. So 1 plus 4 times 1 minus 2. Now this requires a little bit more simplifying, right? 1 plus 4 is 5, and then I'm going to multiply that by 1 minus 2, which is negative 1, to get negative 5. Then we're going to do that again, but now with 2. So 2 plus 4 times 2 minus 2 would be 6 times 0, which is 0. Then we're going to do that again for 3. So 3 plus 4 times 3 minus 2 would be 7 times 1, which is 7. And then we stop when we get to 4, and so now I'm on 4. So 4 plus 4 times 4 minus 2 would be 8 times 2, which is 16. So then we're going to add all those together. So negative 5 plus 0 plus 7 plus 16 tells me that the summation of k plus 4 times k minus 2 from 1 to 4 is, well, this ends up giving me 18. So 18 is your final answer. Now make sure you try the others on your own. And go to the next video for the next part.